This is 10 times easier to go live on YouTube. Okay, done. Redirecting, and we are live on YouTube. There we go. This is 10 times easier to go live on YouTube. Okay, done. Redirecting, and we are, there we go.
We're getting feedback.
And it
Reliving
should,
the past.
yep. Are you still getting feedback?
No.
I think we're okay now, Blair.
Yeah, I thought so. I just test it for sound coming through, and then I just mute myself there and actually put it on pause, and it'll keep going. So you guys can test to see if it's still going on YouTube, but I did it last time. It worked perfectly. It just kept on rocking and rolling and going out there. So
Okay.
that's it.
All right, Blair, do you have anything else before we get started?
No,
All right.
no. Just a special welcome to Jeremy. That's all. So
Welcome. Great to have you with us, Jeremy. All right, you guys, welcome to the 317th episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience, where we discuss mind models. Mind models are a collection of extensively tested thought frameworks, skills, and behaviors that enable people to transform their lives intentionally. They've been tested and proven to be 80% effective when applied consistently versus mindset, which is only 1% effective. Your host for this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of Mind Models, and the BDE is Blair's gift to you. We are Tim and Becky Graff, and we are your co-hosts and certified mind model coaches, along with the amazing Patty McClurg. Mind models have helped us in every area of our lives, not only in business, but personally, resolving an 8-year issue in our marriage within a couple of hours. And it has also been a key cornerstone to our navigation of grief and PTSD from the tragic event in 2020, where we lost both of our young daughters. Mind models have allowed us to be more effective and increase our capacities and speed of recovery without traditional counseling. And so whether you've been with us for a while or you're new, we'd like to welcome you. If you're on YouTube and you're joining us live, please make sure that you comment, like, and subscribe so that we can get back to you and answer any questions that you have. We're super thrilled to have you with us. And as a reminder, we go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain and 9 p.m. Eastern to talk about topics related to mind models and how they can impact and enhance your life. With that, I think we're ready to get going. And Blair, I think you had a couple things for the group.
yes, I did. I don't know if you saw the latest updates, but I did make some last minute here. So anyway, guys, I have been studying up on YouTube and how to make things work a little bit better for me. And one of the things that I was encouraged to do a long time ago was to charge for this. I haven't done that. And I continue to follow that policy basically. However, I was encouraged recently. Sorry? Oh, that was Shane. Was to see if people would like or would be interested in sort of like source notes with a study guide, frequently asked questions. There's a quiz with answers in there, the whole 9 yards. And I was thinking about doing something like that for around $5 an episode or something like that, just to help defray costs and whatnot and give me a toehold in monetizing what I do here freely. But this will stay free. So this part of it would stay free. So if you want to show up and do nothing, then that's, oh, great. So Stefan is actually going to join us shortly. So anyway, I was on his podcast earlier today. Yeah, it was fascinating. I had a really good time with him. And there's Stefan. Hey, Stefan. So glad you could. So I was just sharing a little bit about the BDE and the fact that I'm thinking about monetizing a small part of what I'm doing, partially to get email addresses and figure out a way to do this. But just to this part is absolutely free. And as I say, would stay that way. However, I would like to offer people source notes, a study guide, frequently asked questions, and a quiz that if you guys wanted to sort of go to town on what this stuff actually is, it's a quiz with an answer key as well, all for around $5 a month, or no, $5 an episode is what I thought, $20-ish a month. Does that sound? Oh, right. Hold it. Before I do that, I'm going to commenter. Got it copied. And what you can do here is, there you go. This is to everybody. And if you click on that, you can see the document that I prepared. This is basically what I thought we could do. So it's fairly comprehensive, I thought, and it's currently free today. But I thought,
So just to clarify, Blair, this is a copy of what people would be getting on a weekly basis, is this kind of thing. So this is an example, more
this
like
is-
a sample.
yes, exactly. It's a free sample of
Okay.
what it is that I'm doing. And I know that a lot of you take a lot of notes. Hey, Tim. And I thought, sometimes people are giving me readbacks from their notes and they're not tightly aligned with what I said or meant. And so I thought, we're getting a few people here coming along, and we're getting newer people here. How can we help newer people, adapt to this stuff? And that was the thought that I came up with. Anyway, it was just putting together these notes. And anyway, thoughts. Brent, I saw your lips move. So
Yeah, I off the top of my head, I'd like it. Straight notes from your thoughts from you, and then the quiz portion is really neat as well. Especially if you're new, if you have any questions on terms or what we talked about, it's like a refresher. If you don't have it in your notes, if you miss something, maybe you're not going back and having to watch, you can look at the notes, the sheet there.
And the other thing that I included there was an answer, a term of glossary of terms, because a lot of people are wanting sort of like quote unquote definitions. And Zach, you have your hand up.
Yeah, love the idea. I would be, if you share that document, you're gonna want to make it view only, so that people don't go in there and just type and mess with it. Like this one's not view only, so when you click share, just make sure it's set to view only. And then if we want to make our own copy, it's Google, so you can actually just go to file, and then I can make a copy, and then I can mess with whatever I want.
Right. Okay. So if I go to share,
Blair,
Yeah.
I updated it for you, I believe.
viewer only, yes, you did. Made it viewer. And that's it.
Post that link in the chat, just so
Yeah, it was. So it should now be viewer.
it'll be a different link. It'll be a new one.
Okay, well then I will put that one in. Or Becky, could you throw that in?
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
refreshed mine and it gave me I had to request access to edit if I refresh the page.
Oh, okay.
Using
Okay.
the link. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Perfect. Okay. Great.
Because that way I can keep track of people that have come on and are the more serious participants rather than people who are just sort of dropping by from time to time. And what I want to work with the serious people. Yeah, serious may not be the right word, but the people that I see a real value to mind models. Because I spent 40 years of my life and 17 and a half years on research and development of these things. So it's not just random ass shit. It actually works. So as
I would pay for BDE even without the notes, to be honest. Just that's where I'm at. But I'll pay for the notes. I'm good with it.
okay, thank you. I just wanted to be able to get there and make that happen. So that was sort of critical. Sorry, I'm just checking. Okay. Great.
Well, I'm wondering, since we're into posting links in the chat right now, perhaps we could post the free gift that Blair has for people who are new here, for Jeremy and Stefan, to be able to enjoy his free gift. It goes over the foundational mind models of the 3 E's: effective versus ineffective, external versus internal, and evaluation versus judgment. So it's a very worthy experience. I hope you enjoy it as much as we do.
Yep.
There you go. So those are the free examples of the study notes. And then the 3 E's masterclass is the free gift, and it's below that in the chat.
Perfect.
So
Uh,
Blair, would you like to take us
Sure.
into asking questions, which is part of our
I-
topic tonight?
Brent, what was your
Yeah,
concern?
yeah. Is this are the notes, since this one was free? Did you want to put that in the YouTube comments as well, or leave it on just this?
Well, I was going to do it here now, but
Okay.
that's a good point. We can probably add that to YouTube later. So, if people would like to sign up for the BDE, if you would like the notes and all of this stuff here's a sample of what you get, but this will be delivered weekly. Sorry about that. I'll be
I
right.
have one last suggestion.
Yeah,
For us students here, what I'm going to be doing, I'll be making a copy of the notes, and then that way I can make more notes while we're on in the call.
nice.
So you can use it double whammy. It's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect. So there you go. Anyway, I wanted to make it very reasonably priced so that it shouldn't be about the money. In my mind, it is about just stepping up and seeing, okay, I'm committing, you're committing time and resources, and we're committing a lot of time and a lot of resources. And I thought that was a fair trade. Anyway, with that, going back into where we go from here. And it goes back into asking questions. So part 1 of this material, and it is guiding principles for effective communication. This is part 1 of it's set out to be sort of an 8 part sequence, maybe 9, maybe 10, depends on what happens here. And where we go with this and how people take this stuff. But mind models help with coping, problem solving, success, and decision making and empowerment. And that's really a lot of what we do during the day. That's most everything, especially the coping part of that. Coping and problem solving are big. There are so many people that are not coping as well as they'd like to. They are not where they'd want to be, and their stuff's happened. And I had a wonderful, absolutely amazing podcast with Dr. Stefan Neff. Okay. And man, it's like we are brothers in situations that we share in a similar age range, and the crap it's freaking identical almost. I mean, he's in New Zealand, I'm here in Canada. It's like, oh my gosh, but the what he's going through is almost the same thing that I've gone through. And I don't know if the time frame is the same there, but my journey of this whole thing started in 2019, and with my divorce. And I don't know about you, but probably in the same time frame ish. And so go ahead.
You read me like a book, my friend. That was scary this morning. So talk about profiling and talk about the powers of your method. Guys, look forward to the episode coming out in December. He is good.
Thank you. Yeah. And you know what? That information Pardon me. The stuff we went through brought me to, again tonight, the power of communication, what communication really does, and the 8 guiding principles for effective communication, and it's with self and others. And often we don't take a look at communicating with ourselves. And that leads to issues with coping, problem solving. Our success breaks down, our decision making, our sense of empowerment goes kablooey, and everything starts falling apart. So we need to shift a little bit around what we do. And one of the ways that I did a lot of research on lately is the what, why emotions. And we have a series, well, not a series, but we have a BDE episode just on what, why emotions. If you guys know what that is, could you bring that up and just throw it in the chat or just share it out loud so that people can go back and find it? And I'm positive it was since we were on YouTube. So it should be on YouTube for sure. That is huge. I'm the first person in the world that's ever defined what, why emotions to be different styles of emotions. Colin, you've had some personal examples of this, and I thought, can I pick on you a little bit and have you share what you've noticed with you, your friend, your client, or whatever that was that you were engaged with? Would that be reasonable?
Yeah, sure. Would you like me to share what I shared with our inner circle group?
Basically, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, so I was on a call with a friend of mine recently, and I really didn't give him much because I'm a novice with all these things as well, but I just outlined the question concepts, focusing primarily on what and why, and how the why gets into storytelling and it's internally driven, and how we can get stuck in why. And Blair, would you like me to share the text I shared?
Yeah, please go right ahead.
Okay.
I'm totally cool with
Yeah.
that.
I thought this was really cool because we didn't talk for super long. It was maybe an hour-long conversation, but he texted me the next day and he gave me permission to share this. And yeah, I thought this was super cool. I'll read this. So here's the text he sent. It was, "Okay, dude, I just did the thing. Here's the conversation I just had with myself while going about my morning routine. Got bogged down by something, stopped and asked myself, what am I feeling right now? Defeated. Okay, why am I feeling that way? I don't know. Wait, it doesn't matter why. That's just a story to reinforce the feeling anyways. Is feeling defeated an effective way to finish getting breakfast ready? No. Can I feel a different way? Maybe. Did I just do the thing? Yeah, I think so. Well, that's exciting. Can I feel excited about that? Well, yeah, I can. How am I
Okay.
feeling right now? Excited. Let's tell Colin and get back to it. Okay.
That was such a cool example. If you want to throw the text in the meeting chat, that would be cool too, if you don't
Sure.
mind. But it was just so spot on. Like that was all about what, why, and how we screw ourselves up with all these stories that we tell ourselves. Yet traditional psychology asks us to get into all of our past. Yet we can't change our past. And the funny thing here is that Colin tutors people to take the psychology exam to become certified psychologists in whatever part of the states you're in. So that's part of your business. So what part of that is it? What do you do there?
Yeah, I help psychologists to pass the EPPP, which is basically the last academic hurdle to becoming licensed as a clinical psychologist.
Yeah. And I found that when tell the story about mind models and how come you decided to go more towards, or some like folks or learn mind models as well?
Yeah, so I've been in psychology space. I'm not a psychologist. I'll just throw that out there, but I've been working with psychologists to help them study for this exam for years. And so the exam is kind of covers the whole field of psychology. It's pretty thorough. And so in order to tutor people with that, I've had to basically learn an immense amount of information in the psychology field and be able to teach that. And having done that, I would say, you know, obviously I'm not a psychologist, I'm not an expert in psychology or anything like that, but I've been in and around the block enough in that domain to recognize when something is different, when it's not something that is covered or widely known in the psychological realm by psychologists, you know, and I know from that and having been exposed to Blair's mind models that what Blair is teaching and showing is nowhere to be found in psychological academia. It's not being taught, it's not being trained on. And, you know, knowing what I do know with psychology and working as a coach, and I've been applying that psychological knowledge to coaching people for years now. And the shifts that I've seen using mind models have been so much faster than what I've done historically. It's I almost still don't believe it, but I've seen it enough times now, even just within the past couple months, that you know I've got repetition, and it's externally verifiable. So, you know, I don't know what else to say. This stuff works.
Yep, exactly. Well, it got tested. And so, like I share with everybody, everything I do is identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. So it basically follows the scientific model, in short. Anyway, the questions here, it all comes down to the question concepts, which I did 6.5 years of research on when I was at life skills colleges. And we had at our peak 23 campuses around the country. I'm up here in Canada. And over 1,000 students a year, 80% of them were potentially suicidal. So everybody was paid to come in by the government. And if we didn't lose anybody, yeah, we got the worst of the worst. That's because, first of all, we didn't stick with traditional psychology. We did the things that worked, that got results. And life skills was the fundamentals. And the government spent $42 million and 5 years researching life skills, but the funding was cut off early for that. So I was able to, being at the college, was able to carry on research using the same parameters that they did, and that was identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable testing. And I had student body to test them on. And I could test things to work 80% of the time. And it is not about the quality of the question asked. I researched that as well and had a 3-month study on that, tracked my hypothesis, crunched the number, took it to my stats professor, and he said, which I squeaked through on the course, but the stats professor remembered me and said, Blair, you did an amazing job. You got your math absolutely perfect. And this, you know, the stats that the statistical variation is absolutely meaningless in this study. And you figured that out. Well done. And I go, you know, like my whole thing was to try and prove that the quality of the questions work. I read 3 papers. 2 of them said the qualities of questions matter, and 1 said they don't matter. But the 2 that said that it matters, their arguments were very different from each other. And I thought, well, I'll be the person that jumps in there and I'll figure this stuff out, and I'll be the tiebreaker, as it were. But lo and behold, I went to the it doesn't work category. There's no statistical significance. And I found that to be true. The better questions you ask does not necessarily mean the more effective you are going to be. But while I was crumpling up my paper, checking it into the garbage, it dawned on me, what if it's just the question that you ask? Hence, opening this up with what, why emotions? Because if you're asking, especially to yourself, all these things and you're saying, so I feel like, or I feel that, those are huge red flags, because what's going to come right after that is your story. And when you tell that story, you are stuck in your why. You are stuck in the past, giving reasons, excuses, rationalizations, and justifications. And oh my God, it is so demoralizing, because the why is the only one of the question concepts that is only 100% only in the past. And since you cannot change your past, and if you're stuck in your why, you are doomed to be stuck there. And depression grows when you're stuck there. So you have to know how to break free. And the what emotions bring you the majority of the time into the present and land you in the present, looking forward, forward facing. And that's where opportunity is. That's where transformation is. So that's the piece here. What happens is you increase your ability to cope. You increase your ability to manage your emotions just by understanding this simple stuff. And that story that took you, Colin, about an hour to teach your friend, and yet he now turns around and does it on his own almost immediately. I mean, oh my gosh. There you go. He's running himself through this internal dialogue and releasing crap before it buries him, and he's getting excited. And like, Stefan, that was exactly what we were talking about on our call earlier today. Like, just unbelievable in being able to pivot and shift ourselves. And you didn't know how to do it, but that's evidence of how it's done. And it means that my work is, again, it's identified. Colin's learned it. He's identified parts of it. He made it repeatable. He did it and shared that with somebody else. And duplicatable means that it's transferable to somebody else. And in this case, it's his friend. And that's the power of the mind mods. Okay, with that.
So say, Blair, may I add something to that, please?
Yeah, please go right ahead. I was going to
Yes.
say, I'm done. I'm out.
Okay. I'm just going to say, I don't know, everybody's heard that expression. You give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach him to fish and he feeds himself for a lifetime. And my models, in their simplicity and how easy they are to weave into our lives, is teaching someone to care for themselves and their mental health for a lifetime. It's not, in a way, as a coach, it's the structure of my models to eventually not be needed by anyone. So, you know, Blair does not coach someone with an idea that he's going to have a client for a couple of years. He's looking at a client for a number of weeks, not a couple of years. And so it's that I think, Blair, you coined the term legacy coaching, so that people can coach themselves. You giving them information, they know how to use it, they don't need you. So it really removes a lot of the ego from what we're doing, and it's making someone else, it's giving them the tools they need to be independent and care for their own mental health.
Yeah, I would like to just jump on some of the timelines there. It can be as short as a few weeks for people with depression and whatnot. But if they're applying it to transform their life, and it's a business scenario as well, that gets a lot more complex. And that way I need about 12 touches a day, a month is what I say, for a year. And the transformations happen very reliably. So it's crazy how effective that stuff has been. So yeah, anyway, but I mean, it's anywhere from a few days, a few hours to, 12 to 24 sessions, and it's done forever. Like at least until they reach another plateau in their business and things need to transition and move again. So that also happens. And it works at all levels, personal, corporate, religious, wherever people land. Relationships, absolutely in relationships. Becky and Tim had a huge one way back when they took coach training.
Well, I was going to say, to pivot off that, Blair, Becky mentioned when we talked about the opening of this, we had an 8-year issue in our marriage that was resolved when we went through the mind model coach. And honestly, we learned actually the mind model, very similar to what I'm going to be talking about here in a second. We learned this. And then within an hour, hour and a half, we were able to ask clarifying questions. We were able to bring awareness to each one of us. And we actually resolved an issue that we had in our marriage over 8 years within an hour, hour and a half of conversation and mind model coach.
And we're talking like the elephant in the room that nobody wanted to address, that you're just like, oh, please don't bring it up, because once it does, right, we're going to be on the hamster wheel. He's got his perspective, I got my perspective. Neither one of us are going to budge because our model of the world is right.
Yep.
But what Tim's going to be going into.
Yeah,
with
so
questions.
the mind model that we want to kind of pivot into now, you guys, is actually called ASK. ASK. It's an acronym, and it's assumptions stop knowing. And one of the things we do when Blair starts talking about these whys, okay, we go into the story of it. And there are those what and why emotions. And when we go into that story, we as human beings, we tend to do this a lot. We go internal, we make assumptions, and we don't usually clarify these assumptions. We don't usually ask questions from other parties. We just assume based on historical things that we've experienced, we believe, what have you, and we make an assumption and we move forward based on that. The struggle with that is it stops knowing. And it actually not clarifying those assumptions creates a complete breakdown in communication, which is actually what Becky and I had going on in our relationship. We were making a lot of assumptions. We were coming based on our past and historical stuff, and we were not clarifying our assumptions and asking questions. We were just going off what we knew and making all sorts of judgment calls and things based on our past, and it really broke down the communication in our relationship. One of the cool things about ask, and when we ask a question, is within questions are powerful. They not only open the mind for curiosity. If you think about it, when you ask a question to somebody, what does that fundamentally do? Brent, if I ask you a question, what does that do to your head?
The brain wants to focus on the question and answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if I ask you, what time is it?
I'm going to check what time it is and give you the answer. Right, so,
okay.
But for me, it's 9:37 p.m. Yeah.
Brent, what time is it specifically?
Any more specific than that? Well, it's 9:37 p.m. Eastern time. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So with questions, the cool thing is when you ask a question, it engages the other person. It does open the mind. They are focused now on you and what you're asking them. Okay. And also the cool thing about questions is there is a response that comes from the person receiving the question. And if I ask Brent, what time is it? And he responds purple, that question or his response rather is not in alignment with the question. It is what we call, so the power of the question requires a response within parameters, right? There's a box, so to speak, and every answer is within that box. If he responds purple, that is what we call outside the box. It is outside of the parameter of the question. Okay. So the cool thing about asking a question is it does open the mind for curiosity from not only the person asking the question, but the person receiving the question. But there are also certain parameters within the questioning process. And through that, we can ask more specific questions. We can really drill down and find out information through that process to clarify assumptions and to get specific and to really communicate effectively.
And I wanted to, I love the example that you used asking Brent about what time it was in his response, because he gave a very valid response. Where there was a little bit of potential assumption happening might have been if Tim and Brent had just met and they're attempting to make a appointment where they can meet up and have a conversation about something else, just a date or just a time specific, just a time given, 7 p.m. isn't enough information. It's not specific enough for alignment to actually happen. How many times have you guys experienced just a tiny little nuance like that is kind of derailed, maybe it's just a couple minutes, the conversation or the alignment that you're attempting to have either with yourself or with somebody else in planning and moving forward? Because it really is about the specificity, the clarification of nuanced assumptions on that. And so, did you have more you wanted to add?
No, go for it.
Okay. So when we're talking about assumptions, they come in all sorts of shapes, sizes, and colors, and in multiple areas. But so I guess the question is how then might we start to notice when we're making assumptions? Colin, what do you think? How might we start noticing?
Somehow I just knew. I assumed you were gonna call on me. I felt my spidey senses tingling. And for me lately, what's been working is that what why concept has been helpful. If I notice that I'm telling a story, I would say assumptions fall into storytelling. If I hear the story, then I stop and say, wait, is that a story? And I check. If it's a yes, it's like, okay, well, I can either ask, is that story effective or ineffective? I could just, because maybe it's an effective story. Or I could try to switch from storytelling into what, how. Maybe I jumped ahead of your question a little bit, but that's what's been working for me.
Jump into that a little bit too, because stories by in and of themselves do not necessarily make it a why per se, because you can have what-based stories as well that are very instructive. But when you have stories that create reasons, excuses, rationalizations, and justifications for your behaviors and are not verifiable, externally verifiable to anybody else, but it's just internally verifiable. It's your opinion. You're hooped at that point because now you're just reinforcing your own things that aren't working already.
Would it not be fair to say that every single moment, every single thought is essentially an assumption, or is essentially your perspective, the whole gamut of fact that is coming in and the way you align it? Is that not the reason that if you ask 10 people who were witness of a robbery, you get 11 different people?
Right. True. But the way that you structured that was all through why. So yes, I concur. But that is a why argument. And that's unfortunately what most people process everything in. And they do it so much that they think everybody does it exactly the same way. Remember on our podcast, I sort of blew your mind a few times? because I gave you pause when I structured what I'm doing in what's and hows. And that just was so foreign to you. But what you just said is normal for 90% of the population.
Hmm.
Okay, Jane.
So I just want to clarify something after listening to what you said about what a why is. Aren't reasons, can they fall under the what category?
Yes, they can. We can have what or why reasons. But reasons that are what-based reasons are, number one, they are present tense. Number one. Number two,
Oh,
they're information loaded. They're not describing emotion, they're describing information.
okay.
And those two factors, with it being present and focused on information, means that your result is going to be predominantly present tense, and the reasons are going to inherently generate a list of one or more things or events. As you're talking about these reasons tend to filter into things or event categories of what happens next from here. So we take a look at it forward facing, looking at our future, whereas why could be almost present, but our story is pinning us to the past, and we're looking back at the past, justifying why we are where we are and feeling those feelings of loss, of regret, of feeling defeated, of feeling well, when I was working at Life Skills College, 80% of our students were potentially suicidal. So a ton of suicidal thoughts and depression. I have yet to find a person who is depressed who isn't predominantly living in their why.
And this is where our issue came in, is we were looking at this from the why state of it, from the feelings of it. We were looking at it from, well, I feel this way and I shouldn't feel this way. And she was looking at it the same way. And, you know, we were looking for a different outcome, but we were not paying attention to what was actually going on, the what of it, what the other person was experiencing, what they were feeling in a forward facing approach. We were just coming from what we knew, what we felt, and what we thought it should be. And it was all assumption based, it was all emotion based, and it was all from our past.
Colin. No question.
Oh, yeah, Blair, I wanted to ask, is it all right if I throw myself in the spotlight on trying to do a what versus why reason? Because I hadn't actually thought about that before. So can I
Go
give
for
it a
it,
shot? Yeah.
please.
So I was thinking like a what reason might be like if I have people coming over for dinner or something, and there's 5 chairs at the table and there's 6 people, and I get another chair. I could say, I'm getting this other chair because we're 1 chair short. We need another chair to have all 6 people. That would be like a what reason, right?
Well, that's your purpose for getting a chair, but
Yeah.
is that for it?
I guess that's my question. Is that an example of a what reason?
That's your purpose for getting a chair. Not the,
Okay.
well, also, if you argue that as a reason, then your tone of voice was actually, if I was profiling you on that, I'd say you're in a what why.
Okay.
You are feeling embarrassed. Some
Oh,
minimal
interesting.
embarrassment. And you're feeling the need to explain yourself because you goofed on that, as opposed to, hey, I see there's 6 people and we only have 5. I need to grab another chair.
Got it.
Do you feel the difference? Does it resonate with you differently when I just stated that's what it is, as opposed to what you said?
I could hear information loading first in your voice. I don't think I heard myself clearly enough to hear the difference.
Well, this is a moment, we've got this on video. So go
Yeah,
back.
it's great. I can go back.
Yep. And it's now about 50 minutes in. So
Okay.
there you go.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Cool.
Shane.
So I've found myself in a Y state the last 4 trading sessions I've done. Felt just what you said, defeated, regret, and why did I do that?
Yeah.
So do you have any the words are hard, tricks or tips to recognize that Y loop sooner?
Yes, absolutely. Just like what you read in the guide doing that, Colin's friend, the question that comes to my mind is when I'm starting to notice that I'm loading emotions and I'm judging myself like crazy, because you can feel the judgment, can't you? Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I do is, Blair, what was effective and what was ineffective? Yeah, I got to start disciplining my mind to notice what is externally verifiably effective during that trading session. And you can't say nothing because I guarantee you, I've traded. I've done that. I've learned some of that stuff. I just learned from a thing that put me on London time, and I had no life and no family for 6 months when I was starting to do that. So I got out of that. Okay. And I really want to do what I do. But the point being is that being able to recognize for myself what's working and disciplining my mind. The number one thing, I don't care how bad things blew up. What happens is I look at it and I go, what's the one thing that I did effectively? I got in and attempted to make a winning trade. The way I evaluated it was flawed. There was something that I need to figure out in terms of the evaluation, but going in and testing my assumptions is what I needed to do. But if I go in there expecting to have a winning trade every single time, I will always blow myself up because that's an impossibility. You don't know what the future brings.
So, and I can verify this, what I heard from that was ego.
Bingo.
My
But I,
ego.
I,
And
I actually park that in me. I don't even go there with my ego. Yes, my ego got in my way. If I want to do it from a psychological point of view, but from a mind model point of view, was that effective or ineffective? My ego thing was ineffective because I'm now thinking I understand my motivation being ego, but that actually is another why, because ego is always internal. So I stopped using ego.
Blair,
Yeah.
it's often, correct me if I'm not tracking, but for me, when we're talking about, effective versus ineffective, everything that happens prior to what you're evaluating really doesn't matter. It's information that you can use to identify, did this work for me or not? And it can be on macro and micro scale. So what Blair's saying is he spent a lot of time trying to figure out the reason why, right? The reason why you're experiencing this, how come I'm here again? But you're in your story already instead of giving yourself a little bit of emotion or mental timeout. Okay. Does it really matter if it's my ego or it's the couch or it's the computer or the dog or the cat or the squirrel? Is what's happening right now, is what's going on right now effective or ineffective? And then what do I want to do about it? Because all of the input prior to what's going on right now is information that you can utilize. But if you spend your energy attempting to micro analyze it, it really isn't moving you forward. You're just playing in your own mud at this point, trying to figure
well,
out fast.
I'm definitely stuck because it's the same thing. Count goes up, count goes down, count goes up, count goes down. Never can get past that threshold. And then it's the Y loop. Well, am I good enough to do this? I get to a certain point, and then I'm just beating myself up internally. So
And that sounds to me like a um,
I just don't
self
know how to fix it.
a self-limiting belief that you may have. And I have dealt a lot with those and help people break through with that with phobia freedom formula. Because you start training yourself to think that's as good as I can get. And so you self-sabotage at that point in time, subconsciously. It's not
Well,
even
I've done
conscious.
that.
Yeah, well, these are things that we can
Stop
work.
doing
Well, you can learn how to stop doing it. Absolutely.
it.
Brent,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great, Shane. I had a thing with the questioning, like effective questions with Tim and Becky. Is that something? I know you guys, Tim was mentioning your issue, you guys are in the why, your side, that side. Is it so I mean maybe you guys can provide an example of the effective, like what questions that you guys got into that helped you? Is that something that's
You want us to role model? Is that what you're asking for?
sure, yeah. As an example, just that provide an example, because I know we were getting into we're on the whys and how that's ineffective, and then we haven't got
It
to the
yeah,
other
it
side.
required us both to get curious and to be in a place where we were willing
Mhm.
to seek for alignment. And so first question is, may I ask you a question? I'm curious about fill in the blank, right?
Mhm.
To have, I'm trying to truly understand what his perspective of that thing is to start paving the pathway for that. So the first question is,
Hmm.
you know, I'm curious. May I ask you a question about this thing that brings us into like, I'm not trying to prove and position you. I'm not trying to beat you over the head with my opinion. We've been around this mulberry bush for 8 years. I think that our track is pretty well ingrained. There's no deviation happening. And so we really had to come together with that. Like we really want to work on this. And so I'm curious. Can I ask you some questions? We use the save as phrase. This may not come out the way that I intended, but is it something that we can work on together? And then from there, it was very much what-based questions. What was your experience with this? What was it specifically that you were feeling as it related to this?
And one of the biggest things, and we actually just put this in the chat as well, is where are you? Are you internal versus, well, it was a little ways up in the chat, but are you internal or are you external? And that's what I heard between the way Colin asked about the chair versus Blair. One of the, Blair mentioned that he's kind of in a what why. The biggest thing that I picked up on there was Colin was, he was in what? He's looking for the what's the purpose, but he was still internal. He was still telling, in a sense, a small sense even, a little bit of the story to himself. And Blair, if you watch the replay of this, Blair actually took it external. He asked the question outside of himself. He made the question known, like he took it external. And that was one of the big differences that I noticed between the way you asked it, Colin, and the way Blair asked it, was the internal versus external. And that was what we had to get to as well, was all the internal story and what we thought and all the things inside, we had to get external with it. We had to take and actually clarify the assumptions, clarify what we thought we knew or did know, and all those things. Like we had to, first of all, come to alignment, as Becky mentioned. May I ask you a question? This may not came out the way I want to, but can we work on it together? That save as phrase that we did learn from Blair and Melissa. And then we actually took things external and asked each other the questions back and forth without judgment, without going into the story and the why of it. And it was amazing how much clarity we gained through that conversation.
Yeah. So, something's just as simple as, what do you notice that I'm doing or not doing that is creating that felt sense for you? What might I need to do differently, or how might I behave differently so that I can, we can work on this and not have those things. But it really is staying in the behavioral part of it, because the story, fish stories, guys, right? Caught a fish this big last week, and we do it all the time in so many different areas. Was that helpful, Brent? Did that answer your
Yeah,
question?
no, that was the clarifying on being curious and asking the questions and staying in the what's and present and the behavior base and not in the why. That was what I was kind of looking for on that side. I know we were because it was about the communication piece, and we talked about it was two couples as an example, but I wanted to kind of get a conclusion on the effective side of how that works. So thank you.
And then you can always ask yourself, like Shane, you could take this back and apply it to yourself and say to yourself, so what might I do effectively differently this time? Like when you're going in to evaluate your data. What am I looking for? You got to get curious. You got to find that whole pattern and notice it, see what's working, what's not there. And that's where finding somebody, maybe a SAC or somebody else that you trade with from time to time, for them to review it. So you get an externally verifiable point of view. Okay.
There's also an element of accepting what is. So when you were doing Colin's question and he was giving his example about going to get another chair, it was because, whereas when Blair was giving his example, it's, oh, we need another chair. It's just looking at 5 chairs, 6 people, we need another chair. It's what is in that moment, as opposed to, well, this is because I need to get this chair because we didn't have enough chairs because, for whatever reason, you underestimated, somebody brought an extra guest, whatever. But as Becky was saying, those reasons, are often irrelevant to the moment. So what's relevant is you have 5 chairs and 6 people. That's what is. And so dealing with what is becomes relevant. And with Shane, you made a trade, it didn't work out. What is? Okay, what's right now? So noticing, and this will be the last thing that we touch on before we go into wrap up tonight, but noticing how you're talking to yourself. Shane was able to identify that his self-talk was ineffective. And so he basically asked for help. He asked, how do I identify this? So, hey, Jackie, good to see you. So looking at what is effective or isn't ineffective. I have heard from someone who is famous, or not famous, but they're frequently quoting this statement that unsolicited advice is always a form of judgment. So unsolicited advice in a mind model perspective is telling. And we are telling ourselves, or we're telling somebody else what we think they need to know when we think they need to know it. We can tell ourselves. And we don't respond to talking to ourselves in a telling mode any better than anybody else does when we're telling them something. If we're curious, and as Blair and Becky both gave Shane possible questions to ask himself, what might I do differently? What worked? What didn't work? What might I do differently next time? Do I need help? Do I need another perspective? Do I need outside information? Is there something I need to learn? All of those are dealing with things that are what is right now in this moment, curiosity, questions. And so moving, Shane, yourself from the back of the brain, which is that telling judgment place, and then going to the front of the brain. Curiosity is the emotion that Blair discovered in his research is the only one that shifts the brain from the back to the front. So when you get into your prefrontal cortex, you have a better chance of holding on to your what's in your house than when you're staying in the back of the brain with your whys. So I want to throw that out there. Any questions, any last minute questions, comments on the material tonight?
Other than that's a great reminder, just, that whole thing. By the way, when you get into it deep with depression and whatnot, you're living back here in your amygdala and then reinforced with the hippocampus, which is sort of in the center, but going back to your amygdala. And, messing yourself up big time. The
Yes.
neuroscience behind that is you can literally create a brownout in your prefrontal cortex.
Mhm.
So your blood flow is not anywhere close to where it would be normally. And they've got that tracked. And that's an amazing thing to realize that you cannot, break out of that normally unless you get curious. And the word curiosity, just putting that into your brain, can help you break out of back here to get you into your prefrontal cortex. That's huge. Do you have to
Yeah.
run, Jeremy?
Yes, I do. I need to get some rest before tomorrow.
Okay, we do a quick wrap up. If you could share one or two things that are takeaways for you and a number from 1 to 10, how effective that was for you, we'd love that because we're going to be going into wrap up right now.
Purely from my very own experience, I am aware of the fact that I'm very pleased to say that I don't have enough information to tell you anything because I'm learning as a beginner of something I have no previous knowledge. And that's the most satisfying answer that I can give you because that's the truth.
Well done, Jeremy. That's a great answer, by the way. Scale of 1 to 10 from your perspective.
I would say an 8.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I look forward to learning more, and I plan to make my best attempt to be here next week so that I can accumulate something more and get some momentum.
We will
We
look
tend-
forward to seeing you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Just so
Thank
you
you.
know, this is about a 90-minute thing that we generally work towards keeping it
Yeah,
90.
I hadn't had thought ahead of time to actually figure out how long this was going to be, and I also
worries.
my energy is a little.
Yeah.
Thank
Totally
you. I
okay.
now know.
Oh, take care of yourself, sir. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Colin.
Did you book in a time with me to chat?
I did already.
Yay! Awesome. I look forward to that too. That's amazing.
Myself as well. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Have
Bye-bye,
a wonderful
Jeremy.
evening.
So, as Stefan, as you might have picked up, wrap up for us involves people sharing a takeaway that they received tonight and then the effectiveness of this experience in terms of what you were able to take away on a scale of 1 to 10. So you can listen to a few of the people. Colin, would you like to guide us through the wrap up?
I'd love to. Thanks, Patty. Patty, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Sure. It's unfamiliar to go this early in the wrap up for me. So give me a moment. This was an 8.5 for me tonight. I really appreciated the contrast of the whats and the whys with what why emotions as well as what why stories, and how subtle that can be, and emotions being like our barometers as to where we are with things. So that was me tonight. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Patty. Leslie, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Certainly, thank you. It's a 9 for me tonight. The reinforcing the what and the why. I have been probably 98% gotten away from using why in my communications. In my every once in a while it pops up, but it has been the most effective for me to get rid of that word. And I also find that I stop and read what I email before I hit the send button. And 98% of the time, there's a correction required. But the thing is that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And this what, why understanding, we've talked about this in other sessions, but tonight focusing on it about communication is valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Brent, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, so I love the Tim and Becky having their example between the two, and Colin and Shane there with the examples of asking questions and seeing the difference between having it, internal, with yourself or with with another person, how effective that can be, being asking those what questions and getting out of the why. So, yeah, I give tonight 8.5 for me.
Thank you, Brent. Timothy, I think you're going by Timothy, right? Would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
I would love to. Thanks. Thanks everybody. I think looking at my notes, but the one thing without looking at them that stood out the most would have been just the simplicity of the acronym for ASK. I make a lot of assumptions. And throughout doing some of the stuff through this group, I've learned to notice that and kind of try and understand that before I get into the question part of it. Because I really enjoy communicating with people and talking to people, which I think is one of the fundamental pieces of tonight's class, was learning how to communicate effectively. And I'd say about a 9 for sure. I wish that I wasn't so busy that I could make it to every class. Kind of feel like I'm behind sometimes when I come in, but it's just really awesome to hear everybody share their examples, and to like see that people have done the work with these mind models and stuff like that. That I'm just feel like I'm just starting to understand. So I really appreciate that about this group. Thank everybody for just sharing what they know about these effective ways. So yeah, thank you, and I hope everybody has a great night.
Cool. You know what, Timothy? Right up front, I mentioned that I'm going to be offering a very inexpensive opportunity here for people to get notes. And it's here, I'm going to just copy that link again, actually, and I'm going to paste it back in here. This, if you open that Google Doc, that will be what I will be offering for this group at a very, like, basically 20, 25 bucks a month for the notes to everybody. And it's got the quiz, it's got, everything that we went through. It's got all kinds of stuff in there. And I thought this would be a value add because of somebody like you that would love to have that on a monthly basis or every session. What are the notes that are there? And if you make it, you make it. If you don't, well, here are the notes. So, and yeah, because it also has a glossary of terms. And I thought that's one of the things that I did in the back of my book, Ultimate Mind Hacking, but I don't do here. Yeah, well done, you. Well done. Very cool. So that's it. Okay, so that's where I'm going. Then back to you, Colin.
Thanks. So cool that you had the book within arm's
Ah.
reach. Thanks, Timothy. Blair, since you were just on, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Sure. I actually had a great day, a long day, but a great day. Started in with a podcast with Digital Trailblazer, so was on that one. And then I had a wonderful meeting with Daniel Giordano. Really made a great connection there. And then an amazing connection with Stefan Neff. Just absolutely amazing. It's like I might have found a new friend, like a real friend here, which is absolutely huge. We connected on so many levels doing the podcast that he runs and does. So that was just amazing. Uh, Between everything, I was trying to calm down and focus up. And what did I stumble across? How to monetize my stuff on YouTube does not need to get eyeballs necessarily, but making a simple offer. And I was thinking, like they said, a checklist, and I thought, what if I offered these notes and a study guide and all of this stuff here? And I could throw that together fairly quickly and just put that together and just do that. Then I could collect emails and do everything else. And it just blew up in my mind. And boom, I got it done today. And so, boom, it's here. First time ever thought of and offered in the same day, taking massive action quickly. So I loved it. And I really appreciated, Zach, your comment that you'd pay to come just for the course. Well, but you'll do the study guide too. Thank you. And that's sort of some of the stuff that I am seeing, just something that is, a low ticket price point thing that adds value and just adding greater value because I want to change people's lives. And I figured the only way that I can change lives is by giving them greater value than what we've already got. And Stefan, being on your podcast just lit me up inside. So great. Thank you. An amazing time and that sort of thing. So anyway, for me today, it's part of today and part of this has been a 9.5.
Thank you, Blair. Stefan, you got a very warm introduction. Would you like to participate in the wrap-up tonight?
Yes, I would love to. Uh, Intriguing. I've had the mirror held in front of my face very effectively today, and I was challenged. I felt challenged, and I'm grateful for that because it showed me how much I was in a rut, how much I was using maybe mental models or indeed thought patterns that don't really get me anywhere. Only just same old, same old. The mulberry bush, I liked the idea today from Tim and Becky. So I'm grateful for the discussion, for getting to know Blair this morning, and now having a kind of sort of reinforcement. Also to see how you guys are interacting with each other. There is a lot of respect there, and there's a lot of interesting communication happening. Modeling the communication that we're talking about. Certain speech patterns from you, Becky, for example, where I had to laugh and had to think, okay, right, I see where this is going. It's just, you guys are modeling. You're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk, and that is intriguing. So yes, this was, I can't give it a number, but it was a very bloody good day. This is certainly not the last time that I listen to you amazing people out there. So thank you so much for letting me come on board here.
Thank you for coming on board. Please, you have an audience. So if you got something out of it, please share coming on the Blair Dunkley experience with others again.
And we welcome you back anytime it works for you, Stefan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is Lori on?
No, she's not.
Okay. All right.
She'll give it a 9, but she's not willing to turn on the camera.
Okay.
So,
thanks,
Colin.
Thank you, Lori. I'll jump in. I'll give it a 9.5 tonight. What was effective for me was throwing myself under the bus. I've found that has really worked for me recently, so I'm going to continue to do that. Jackie, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
I'll skip. I missed most of everything because I was traveling. I just wanted to kind of sign in and see what was going on. But I'll definitely watch it. And if anything pops up, I'll chat with you guys about it next week. Thanks very much for asking.
Okay, no problem. Is Matt still on? It's not appearing in my window. Oh, there you are. Hi, Matt.
Yep.
Would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I can give a short one. I came in late like I kind of always do every week just because I'm getting my kids down, but um just just seeing the beginning of this and understanding that effective communication, I kind of experienced a little bit of that today just personally this afternoon with some things going on in my life, but internal and external, just realizing effective communication. I have internal thoughts, but I don't always externally use the proper words to effectively communicate, I guess is kind of the way I can look at that. So I just listening to some of the examples and things that were going on today and just made it a little bit more clear that I need to, interpret things in my head, but I don't always externally use my words to effectively communicate those thoughts. A lot of times they just stay trapped up inside my head and I don't actually let them out, or sometimes I feel like I let them out, but I actually didn't. So yeah, it was kind of cool. So I always give it a good number, but a good 9 today, just for the half an hour that I was on, but super effective for me to hear some of these stories and words and communication skills. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Jane, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I'm going to give it a 9. I had an aha moment where I know we come, we listen, we learn, but then sometimes, Blair, you say something that it just goes pop. Oh, and that moment for me was when you said that a what reason is when you're present, you're in the now, right now, versus when you go into a reason of why you did something. That was like, I've always heard why, I've had my little list, reasons, excuses, and all that, but making it a what and getting that full thought was cool. For Shane and trading, because I haven't got back to my trading yet, I'm wondering if part of the whole thing about part of trading is the fact that we are specifically trying to have a future outcome, and it's hard to be present now when we're looking to the future. Therefore, it's easy to go into that why, which is that back future thing. And maybe, and so I popped into Shane. For me, trying to keep myself focused on, always checking divergence. James always says that. I'm hoping that will be, and I'm going to have my thing. I've got my little posters around the room, but that's my thing of when you're looking at divergence, you are looking at an external thing that's going to lead you to your future outcome, the future outcome that you're looking for in the process that you want to execute now. So I'm hoping that will help me, do that external and being in the present thing, because it's Zach knows that there's a part of me that goes down the rabbit hole of, oh crap, I got to make that back. And that's not where we want to go, is we don't want to fix what happened. We want to focus on now. So, and then the last thing was, you're mentioning these notes. I think this is a great idea. As Zach says, yeah, I feel so honored that I get to be here for free, but here's an opportunity to have notes that will make more sense than what I scribbled down in my little red pen. And so what I didn't hear is, how do we access that from this point
Great
forward?
question. Okay, so how will happen next week? What I will be doing is giving you guys a landing page to go to sign up.
Okay.
And that will actually go to a page where you can pay for it month to month, or you can pay one fee with a reduced price for the year, and you will receive every week. We'll email these things out to you weekly.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. That was Big Red How. So thank you. And it was a great episode tonight. I appreciate it. I really liked the participation and all that other stuff. So, and next week, Colin, are we going to see tire treads on your forehead so that we know we're supposed to throw you under the bus?
I won't speculate. We'll see. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Tim, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
I would love to. Thank you, Colin. Tonight was awesome. It was great having Stefan and Jeremy, having new faces on. Great to meet you guys. And to just have new people come in and learn mind models is just amazing. Absolutely love it. And one of my big takeaways tonight, one of the things that worked for me was Brent. And I appreciate you, Brent, facilitating the questions and to Becky and I and the process that we went through working through our issue. I fully admit you started asking the question and you got me into that curious place. My gears started turning, taking myself back to when we went through my model coach and, the process that we go through, because it's become such an automatic just part of me, the mind models. And so actually the thinking through the process got exactly what questions does. Got the gears turning, got me into that curious place. Thank you for facilitating that. That really worked. So that was awesome. And for role playing with me earlier. So that was one of the big takeaways for me. And Jane, right there at the end, asking the how of the notes and bringing that forward, that really worked. So just great conversation tonight. It was a 9.5 for me. So thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Tim. Becky, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Can't go first, Colin. He steals all my stuff.
Oh, I see. Let's switch it next time.
9.25 for me tonight. I love the conversation around the what and the why. I remember a time, first time I had the light bulb moment about the distinction between the two, and being able to articulate what was actually, not from a reliving perspective, but like what actually happened in the past. And it actually is fuel for the process that I use often in my own assumptions for myself is it being able to bring it more present for me. And I can echo a lot of what Tim says. It's great to have new faces. The dynamic of this group is awesome. And to be able to continue to fuel that with different perspectives, different life experiences, different awarenesses, really just lends a richness to the experience here. So I really appreciate it tonight. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Becky. Zach, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I got I would say 9.7. It's really good. Very effective for me. I tend to assume a lot, so this was highly effective for me to find ways to get around that. And I really did enjoy the what reasons and why reasons. I had never heard that one before, and so that was very telling. And I started immediately thinking of different reasons I've played in my head, and was that what or was that why? And so I'm looking forward to putting that into practice. I also liked the unsolicited advice is judgment and is telling. Thought that was really great from Patty. And ego is always internal. So those were kind of my biggest takeaways. But yeah, 9.7 is great. Very effective.
Thank you, Zach. Shane, would you like to participate in the wrap up tonight?
Sure. Thank you for asking. 9 for me, as always. Lots of good information here. Took lots of notes. For me personally, the self-sabotage, the why loop, and I wrote down several times in there before and after Blair and others had said, but what can I do differently? And I got to find what's effective and really need to work on recognizing my ineffective behavior quicker, I guess would be one of my main goals, I guess.
One of the things I'm going to interrupt that because if you identify your ineffective behavior quicker, I would strongly suggest that you master your effective behaviors. Build on things that you're already doing effectively first.
Stop worrying about the ineffective and just do.
Just build on the effective.
Okay.
It will leverage you far faster than trying to fix. See, what I learned was, you know what, when I tried to fix, I'm dyslexic. So, so my muscle was here and I kept on trying to fix everything that was wrong. And so I got a really strong muscle around things that I wasn't very good at. But then I started realizing that if I start building my things that I am effective at, and I start doing it, and all of a sudden I wind up doing this more, and my ineffective starts atrophying, and my effective starts really growing, that gives me strength. And it builds self-confidence, it builds focus, it builds a pathway where I know what I'm doing has got the highest probability of working because I'm playing to my strengths, not building on my weaknesses.
That's very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what you get from a guy that was diagnosed when he was in grade 5 as a moronic genius. So there you go.
I think that's a wrap.
I think so too.
Tim, would you
We're
like to take us out?
Yep.
Bet. Okay, well, it's been great tonight, you guys. We want to thank everybody who was on, and again, Stefan and Jeremy for coming on tonight. It's great to see new faces, and for everybody who's watching on YouTube, we appreciate if you'd comment and leave your questions there. We'll come back after the fact and be able to kind of answer your questions or see any of your comments that you put in there. Also, if you are catching the replay on YouTube or Facebook, we'd appreciate it if you would like or subscribe and follow us. And if my models have touched your guys' life, if you have a story that where my models have been impactful, we would love to hear from that. You can share that in a testimonial or a 2-minute video clip, and you can send that to Blair at rewiringthemind.com. And just a reminder that we are here every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain and 9 p.m. Eastern. And we would look forward to seeing everybody on next Tuesday night. Thank you all for being here and have a great rest of your night, wherever you are.
Yep. Including New Zealand now.
Yes. Or I guess it would be day for, well, what time is it for you, Stefan, sorry.
And that's why I liked this question so much, because how often did I have stuff up with my guests who are sort of coming from overseas and have no clue that I am in the future. Right now it is 3:30 in the afternoon. The sun is shining. It's beautiful. So there is a future waiting for you. I can tell you that I'm living in it. So guys, here you are.
And
Life
it's
is
the
good.
23rd, correct?
That is
it?
correct. That is
Yeah,
correct.
so
We are the first place that sees the sun. Well, there's one little island that tries to beat us to it, but we disregard that. So we are the first here.
And there's a prime example of clarifying assumptions.
Exactly, exactly. And that you have to learn the hard way, because initially I never realized all that. So today was a good reminder, be specific and ask the right questions, which are what? Mhm.
So you're actually in Wednesday, and
That is correct.
Yeah, so Wednesday afternoon. So well done. Good job. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Take care, everyone.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
And you. Bye.